I was 24 when I visited Paris with 4 friends: Drew, Maya, Chris, and Lena. We were young, overconfident, and loved adventure. We had already done the usual tourist things: Eiffel Tower, museums, cafes, photos on bridges when Drew suggested the catacombs. Drew said over breakfast, scrolling through the tour details on his phone, "It's historic and a once-in-a-lifetime experience." "It's underground," Maya said, "and full of dead people," Chris added. Lena looked at me. "You're quiet." I took a long pause and eventually gave in to the peer pressure. That was how we ended up standing outside the entrance to the catacombs on a gray afternoon. Our tour guide arrived 5 minutes later. His name was Luke. He was nothing like I expected. I thought a catacombs guide would be quiet, serious, maybe a little unsettling. Luke was the opposite. He came walking toward us with a bright yellow raincoat, a red scarf, and the kind of smile that made him look like he had never had a bad day in his life. "My brave Americans," he called out, raising both hands like we were old friends. "Welcome to Paris, the city of love, light, bread, and today, bones." Drew laughed immediately. Luke shook each of our hands with enthusiasm. "You are Drew," he said, pointing, "the organizer. I can tell because you look proud and guilty at the same time." "That's accurate," Maya said. Luke pointed at her. "And you are the sensible one." "Finally," Maya said. "Someone sees me." He turned to Chris. "You are pretending not to be nervous." Chris opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded. "Also accurate." Then Luke looked at me. "And you?" "I'm the one wondering if this is too late to cancel." Luke placed one hand over his heart. "Excellent. Every group needs one person with survival instincts." That made me laugh. Before we went in, Luke gathered us close and lifted one finger. "Now, I joke because life is short," he said. "But underground, we follow rules. Very simple rules. Stay with me. Do not wander. Do not touch the bones. Do not run. Do not take shortcuts. If I stop, you stop. If I say move, you move. And if I tell a terrible joke, you laugh because I am responsible for your safety." "Fair," Drew said. Luke gestured toward the entrance. We descended a long spiral staircase that seemed to twist forever. With every step, the city above us disappeared. The sound of traffic faded. The chatter of people thinned out. The air grew colder and wetter, pressing against my face like a damp cloth. Luke's voice echoed cheerfully from below. "Careful on the steps. Paris is romantic, yes, but she also enjoys breaking ankles." By the time we reached the bottom, my legs were already tense. The tunnel ahead was narrow, carved from pale limestone. The ceiling was low in places, and the walls looked wet enough to breathe. Luke clicked on his flashlight and swept the beam ahead of us. "Welcome," he said, suddenly softer, "to the city beneath the city." His lively personality was very comforting. He told stories with his whole body, hands moving, eyebrows lifting, voice rising and falling like he was performing on a stage. He explained how old quarries became tunnels, and how overcrowded cemeteries forced Paris to move the dead underground. Then we reached the first chamber. The laughter stopped. Skulls stared from the walls in neat rows. Long bones were stacked behind them, packed tightly from floor to ceiling. The sight was so unnatural and organized that my mind struggled to understand it. Luke stood beside the bones and lowered his flashlight. "No touching," he said gently. "They are not decorations. They were people. Some rich, some poor, some loved, some forgotten. Down here, everyone becomes the same." No one spoke. Even Drew stopped taking pictures. We followed Luke deeper through the passageways. He stayed lively, but never careless. Every few minutes, he counted us aloud. "One Drew, one Maya, one Chris, one Lena, one cautious survivor," he said, pointing at me. "Good. Complete set." At one tunnel crossing, he stopped and leaned toward us. "Now," he whispered. "This is where bad horror movies make a mistake. Someone says, 'Let's split up.'" "Nope," Maya said immediately. Luke clapped once. "Correct. You live." We laughed, but the sound disappeared too quickly. The deeper we went, the stranger the catacombs became. The official path gave way to older-looking corridors. The walls narrowed. Some ceilings dipped so low that Drew had to duck. The floor was uneven, scattered with grit and shallow puddles. Luke kept us close. Then we heard something, a faint tapping. It came from somewhere far beyond the wall. Chris froze. What was that? Luke tilted his head, listening. Could be water, he said. Could be pipes. Could be another group. Could be a rat practicing percussion. Nobody laughed at first. Then Drew, and the tension broke. Luke smiled, but his eyes stayed alert. We continued. About 40 minutes into the tour, Luke stopped at a passage blocked by a low metal barrier. Normally, he said, we pass through here and circle back toward the exit route. He moved closer and shined his flashlight past the barrier. His smile faded. The tunnel beyond was partially collapsed. Stone and broken limestone covered the floor. Dust hung in the air, fresh enough to make the beam of his flashlight look cloudy. Luke crouched and examined it. Maya's voice dropped. Is that bad? Luke stood slowly. It is inconvenient. That sounds like a guide word for bad, Chris said. Luke turned to us and smiled again, but this time it was smaller. No panic. I know another route. It is longer, less pretty, and it smells like wet basement, but it will take us out. Drew looked at him carefully. Are we okay? Luke lifted his flashlight like a toast. My friend, we are together. We are calm, and I have not yet begun to complain in French. So yes, we are okay. I still felt uneasy. Luke turned us around. For the first 10 minutes, everything seemed normal. We retraced our path through chambers we recognized. The skull wall, the old inscription, the cracked pillar Luke had joked looked like his uncle. Then we reached an intersection none of us remembered. 3 tunnels stretched ahead, left, right, center. Luke stopped. We stopped. He looked at the walls. His flashlight moved over old chalk marks, arrows, initials, and strange symbols scratched into stone. Drew leaned toward me. Did we pass this? I don't think so. Chris swallowed. I thought we were going back. We are, Luke said, but the collapse blocked more than one connection. We must take the longer way. The longer way? Lena repeated. Luke nodded. Very technical guide term. He was still trying to keep us calm. That scared me more. This way, he said. He pointed to the right tunnel. Drew went behind Luke. Maya followed. Then Lena, then me, then Chris. Every few minutes, Luke counted us. Every few turns, he marked the wall with chalk from his pocket. Time began to stretch. The tunnels seemed endless. Some were lined with bones. Others were bare stone. Some had ceilings so low we had to crouch. In one chamber, the air smelled metallic and stale. In another, water dripped steadily from above, each drop echoing like footsteps. Then we heard voices, faint, distant, not clear enough to understand. Everyone stopped. Luke raised his hand. The voices continued, murmuring somewhere in the dark. Another tour? Maya whispered. Luke listened for several seconds. Maybe. Maybe? Chris said. Luke glanced back at him. Paris has many people. Some are tourists, some are workers, some are idiots with flashlights who enter places they should not, Drew whispered. Cataphiles? Luke looked. You did research. I watched 2 videos. Then you were practically an expert, Luke said. Despite everything, Drew looked the most comfortable. The voices faded, then returned from another direction. The sound bounced through the passageways in a way that made it impossible to tell if people were ahead of us, behind us, or on the other side of the wall. Keep close, Luke said. Watch your head and your step. After what felt like another hour, we reached a flooded section of tunnel. Black water stretched across the floor. Luke crouched and dipped his hand in. Cold, he said. Shallow, I asked. He stepped in first. The water rose over his boots. We crossed carefully. The water soaked through my shoes and bit into my ankles. Halfway across, something floated past my foot. A pale, shapeless piece of debris that made my whole body stiffen. Luke saw my face. Not a body, he said quickly. Old cloth. Probably. Probably? I asked. He smiled. A little mystery keeps tourism alive. By then, even his humor couldn't fully cut through the fear. We got to another intersection, with 3 arrows painted on the wall. One pointed left, one pointed right, one pointed straight ahead. Below them, someone had written in English, "Exit this way." Luke stared at it and, not a happy laugh. "A lie," he said. "How do you know?" Drew asked. Luke tapped the wall beside the words. Fresh paint, wrong direction. The catacombs are never so helpful. We went left instead. The tunnel sloped upward, then downward again. The air grew warmer, then cold. At one point, dust drifted from the ceiling after a distant rumble rolled through the stone. Lena grabbed Drew's arm. Luke stopped immediately and looked up. Everyone froze. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then another rumble came, softer this time, somewhere far behind us. Luke's face hardened. "We move now," he said. There was no joke in his voice. We walked fast, but controlled. Luke led us through a narrow passage that forced us sideways, then into a wider chamber with old support pillars. He counted us again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then he pointed at himself. "And one handsome guide. Good." Nobody laughed. He didn't seem offended. We kept moving until the floor began to rise. That was when the air changed. Luke stopped and lifted his head. Drew noticed too. "Is that outside air?" Luke smiled for real this time. "My favorite smell. Dirty Paris air." Hope hit so suddenly it almost made my knees weak. We followed the slope upward. The passage became narrower, then turned sharply. At the end was a rusted metal ladder bolted into the wall. Above it sat a square hatch. Luke looked back at us. "This is not the elegant exit," he said. "But I think today we are not going to be picky." "No," Chris said. "Definitely not." Luke climbed first. The ladder groaned under his weight. He reached the hatch and pushed. It didn't move. He pushed harder. Still nothing. My stomach dropped. Luke muttered something in French that sounded extremely serious. Then he looked down at us with a forced smile. He shoved again. The hatch screeched but stayed shut. Drew climbed up behind him. "Can I help?" Luke looked down. "Yes." On 3. Together they pushed. Once. Twice. On the third shove, the hatch burst open. Cold night air poured down into the tunnel. Real air. Street air. Paris air. I almost cried. Luke climbed out first, then reached down to help each of us through. One by one, we crawled onto wet pavement in a narrow service alley behind a row of buildings. Above us, the sky was dark. A street lamp buzzed overhead. Somewhere nearby, people were laughing outside a restaurant. A scooter passed. Music drifted faintly from an open window. Maya sat on the ground, breathing hard. Chris leaned against the wall. Lena wiped her face with both hands. Drew looked at Luke and said, "You got us out." Luke locked the hatch behind us, then turned around and said, "So, next time, maybe we do a cheese tour." We all laughed.